Hey, this is Jason Drohn. Here's one of the things that has always fascinated me, and one of the reasons I love marketing and sales, especially internet marketing and sales, is everybody. I mean, there's this big thing around sales psychology and NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. Now, I am not an expert by any means. I know enough to be somewhat dangerous, but one of the most prevalent concepts in NLP is this idea of a pattern interrupt. And a pattern interrupt is where you basically, somebody jars you out of whatever state that you are in and gets you and pulls you into the state they want you in. So if you watch Now You See Me, the movie Now You See Me 1 and Now You See Me 2, then there's the one dude, Woody Harrelson's character. I mean, he does a lot of NLP. He basically like taps you and then runs a little bit of some language patterns, and then you're doing something different. So but the pattern interrupt is the key. Now, in this video that I pulled out of our course Funnel Formula, it talks about stories and how people are coming to your webinar, coming to your sales presentation even, with these different stories. So let me run that clip and then we'll come back. We know what the webinar is, but we want to start directing our participants' attention that way. So whenever somebody signs up for a webinar, whenever they log into a webinar, they are met. If you have 300 people logging into a webinar, there's 300 stories going on in all of their heads. I mean, some of them just got out of work. Some of them blew off work to be on your webinar. Other ones just picked their kids up from daycare or school. Still other ones are potentially, just getting ready to take their kid to school because they're in a different time zone. Others are listening while they're fixing dinner. Others are, in their office. Some of them are watching on a big screen TV, with the game right next to it. There's lots of different scenarios. And what questions do is they engage your prospects differently. When you ask a question, even if your prospect doesn't necessarily consciously come up with the answer, their brain still answers the question. Because we as human beings, that's just how we're wired. Whenever somebody asks a question, we might not even internalize the question, but our brain still comes up with the answer. All right, now, as you just heard, you have a bunch of people coming into your sales presentation, coming into your video, and they have these thoughts going around in their head, and one of the reasons that we use questions the way that we do is because we want to, basically funnel people from from where they are, which is all over the place up here. Then we want to funnel them down into question 1, question 2, question 3, so that we can then continue working with them all synchronized. That's why we use questions in our webinars. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand how powerful that can be, but you do it in sales all the time. So great sales, like consultation sales, consultative sales, great salespeople use questions to pre-frame the prospect and kind of direct them where they're going. What we're doing is we're actually doing that on a very, very mass scale inside of a webinar, whether the webinar is live or whether it's automated or even like an on-demand webinar, that just plays instantly, kind of like a lead magnet. But that's why we use questions the way that we do. We want to pull everybody in to the same mentality so that they are in the right frame of mind to get what we need them to get. If you've ever spent time on stage and given an actual stage presentation in front of 50 or 100 people, it's so interesting because when the audience comes up afterwards, or when they see you in the bar afterwards, or they see you around the hotel or whatever, every single one of them is going to come up and say, "Hey, I really loved this part about your presentation. I love this thing you said. I love this insight you had." And the crazy thing is you hardly ever hear the same thing from multiple people. The reason is because typically, they're all coming from different stories, different backgrounds. They all have different stories running in their head. They're all, marching to their own drummer, which is awesome. But being that they're all marching to their own built drummer, they all take something different out. So you want to minimize that in a sales presentation as much as possible. You want to get them, focused and going in the same direction, so that by the time they hit their offer, then you're closing as many of them as possible. So if you would like to learn how to put together these automated webinar sales funnels on your own with your team or internally, then go to proaccelerator.com/funnels. And if you would like us to build an automated webinar funnel for you, or at least design it, architect it out, talk about sales copy and all that stuff, go to doneforyou.com/start, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Thanks. Bye.